Hello everybody, welcome back to another video by Dissociative. My name is Kaya, I'm the host of the system and I'm the person who runs this project. The Dissociative project is dedicated to raising awareness about and reducing the stigma surrounding dissociative identity disorder and other trauma-related disorders. If you guys are familiar with Dissociative or you've been following us since we started in 2018, you're probably familiar with me. Damn, he's got places to be, okay. Wish I had places to be. No, I'm joking. I would rather be here with you. If you have been with us since near the start, you will know that we've had a lot of changes in hosts, and that has always been because we have had fusions. So if you're watching videos from the beginning of our channel or early on in the channel, you are most likely to see Chloe. Chloe was the original person or alter who started this channel, which then became the Dissociative project. In, I believe, 2019, Chloe fused with another alter called Nina. Nina was our sexual protector, and Chloe was our long-term host. Fusing is a type of integration. When two or more alters fuse, it essentially means that instead of there being two alters, the dissociative barriers and amnesia barriers that are formed in the brain that makes those two parts of the consciousness separate start to degrade so that those two parts of the mind become one. This can happen very quickly for some systems, it can happen very slowly for others. The result of Chloe and Nina fusing was NIN. NIN was her own person. She had Chloe's memories and Nina's memories. She remembered being both Chloe and Nina. She also had aspects of both of their individual personalities. She had become a new person. Similar to Steven Universe, if you've seen gem fusions, it's similar to fusing. We've also described it as mixing different colours of paint, so red and blue mixed together to become purple. It's still Nina and it's still Chloe, but now they're also NIN. So those alters haven't disappeared, but they no longer exist as their own individual states of identity. So after that fusion, NIN became the new host of the system and the new host of the Dissociative project. In around 2021, NIN fused with Kyle to create me, Kaya. So NIN had been our host and sexual protector, and Kyle had been our primary protector. We've had a lot of questions about how NIN and Kyle fused to become me, Kaya. What happened between them? What were the details of their relationship? What did it feel like to fuse? And who am I now as a result of being them? How much of them is in me? Both of these fusions took a while to happen. And also both of these fusions, we did not realize they were happening until they kind of happened. The fusion between Chloe and Nina to create NIN, we had no idea that that was coming, and it felt very much like an overnight thing. There was a catalyst event that kind of completed the fusion, and so it felt very out of nowhere, very fast, literally going to sleep somebody one night and then waking up as a completely different person the next morning. It took a long time to adjust to that. Chloe and Nina were both female alters. Nin was a female alter too. Kyle was a male alter. When Kyle and Nin fused into me, Kaya, I am neither male nor female. And that doesn't mean that any alters who are fusing that are male and female or otherwise different sexes or different genders are then going to have either a mixed gender or a non-binary gender. I am non-binary, gender fluid. That means that I don't really ever see myself as being a woman or a man. I see myself as being non-binary. Along the spectrum of that, and it is a spectrum, that gender is fluid. So while I'm never at either binary end of the spectrum, my gender does fluctuate between being more feminine and more masculine, and that is on a deeper and more intense and dysphoric level than just, oh, I feel a bit more feminine today, or oh, I feel a bit more masculine today. It's deeper and more intrinsic to who I am than just that. So that's who I am, but how did I become who I am? What happened with Kyle and Nin? The fusion between Kyle and Nin happened really slowly, and I mean really slowly. It happened over the course of about 8 months, we think. It started in early 2021 and finished at the end of 2021. It wasn't something we noticed at first. Then it was something where we were like, something's weird and we're suspicious about this, but neither of us, we were both in denial about it, and we both just refused to look at it or name it or anything like that because we were both really fucking stubborn. It was slow. I've been feeling suspicious and confused and weird for months now, and it's just subtle. I'm trying really hard not to panic about it, and I'm kind of trying to dissociate and repress it. The last week or so, it's gotten to a point where I really cannot do that. I'm at panic mode. I'm at panic mode because of it at the minute. And I know, I think, apparently I know, that I'm integrating, which is scary. And I keep saying that I don't know who, but I think I do. I really hope I'm wrong. I'm integrating with somebody. I really hope it's not Kyle, but I don't know, but I know I'm integrating, and I know it's taking months and months and months and months, but it's reaching a head now in the last week or so. He can't think about what's going on, and he always knows what's going on, but he can't keep a train of thought. I really fucking hope it's a coincidence. But yeah, this is the most present I've been in weeks. But I'm trying to be mature about it. I'm trying to be strong about it. I'm trying to be calm. Because I'm NIN's protector. I'm the system's primary protector. I'm supposed to be calm and strong and know what's going on. Being primary protector and host, Kyle and NIN already had a close relationship. We continued to get closer, especially after fusing into NIN, and also while working on system communication, the lowering of those amnesia barriers, the understanding why we are each the way we are, what kind of traumas we hold, how we can protect each other, and how we can interact in a safe and meaningful way that will help improve our life going forward. All of those things helped our integration as a system, but especially between NIN and Kyle. Because they were host and primary protector, that also meant that they were two of the alters who dealt with life daily often and were the most impacted by traumas that were happening to the body and in our life in 2020 and 2021. In order to survive that, as the people who were handling most front-facing things, we had no choice but to come together and deal with it because we felt like we had nobody else. Yes, there were other alters in the system who were also going through their own traumas, and there were huge changes to the system happening. There were splits happening all over the place. We were completely dysregulated, and there were a lot of hospital unaliving attempts. That was happening alongside other traumatic situations that were constant. It was just one after another, after another, after another, and it just did not stop. It was too much. A lot of people that we trusted, turns out they were not people that we could trust. With the loss of external trusted figures and an external support system, we turned to each other. We were terrified of the outside world and external people. We did not feel like we could trust anybody. We were also both extremely heartbroken, confused, conflicted, angry, and just generally in a lot of pain. We were the only ones we had. Yes, we had the rest of the system, but they weren't as close like us. None of this was a conscious decision. I guess the brain forced us together because primary protector, Kyle, is supposed to protect NIN. NIN was also supposed to protect Kyle. They both felt like they failed to protect the system and they'd failed to protect each other. They didn't know who to trust. They didn't know what was real, but they did know that they could trust each other because they could hear each other's thoughts and feel each other's feelings because they became almost constantly co-conscious after a certain amount of time. There were periods of time where we were more co-con than we weren't, that it was more often to find us together than apart. It started off with just the relationship becoming more close. It was the only real escape that we had from wanting to not be alive anymore. And it was also a deep relationship because Kyle had been primary protector. His first memories started at around 3 years old. And the relationships between us had changed from hating each other, or at least Kyle hating Chloe, because if the body wasn't experiencing this trauma as a child, Kyle wouldn't have needed to exist, and therefore Kyle wouldn't be experiencing this abuse to protect her. And so he blamed her for it, right at the very beginning when we were very young. We worked through that together. And don't forget what I went through to keep you safe. That I've been with you since you were a fucking baby. That I protected you. And even though I hated your guts and you hated my guts, we went through it. And that I have never fucking left your sides. I remember the first time I told you my name. I remember that you tried to write about my appearance, and you said I had greasy, spiky hair. Greasy, spiky black hair. I don't think it was fucking greasy, but whatever. I guess I've kind of said this as though it was a goodbye, ain't I? We became allies. Then we became friends. Then we became Kyle and NIN. But the depth of the relationship, it was like having two frayed pieces of fabric. and trying to sew them together. And every time we pulled on a cord, it would pull the two pieces of the fabric closer together, closer together, closer together, until eventually they were one. So it started with just getting closer, and then we were co-con more often than we weren't co-con, and then we were co-con together all the time. And we were constantly speaking to each other, either out loud or in our head, and we were constantly together, sharing the same space in the headspace. Then it became more than that. We were constantly touching in the headspace. And we didn't really think much of this. We just wanted to be close to each other, but it was the brain literally forcing us together. Kyle would always be right up behind Nin, like shoulders touching, arm over her shoulder, or holding onto each other's arms. Kyle would have his arms over Nin's sort of like neck and shoulders areas like that, with his head sort of like pressed against her cheek or in her hair. And that's how they would just sit, stand, walk around. And that's what we needed. We lived alone, and it was during lockdown, and we just lost everything and everybody. We craved feeling safe and feeling some kind of protection, and our brain provided us with that. It started to feel so real and so intense. And if we wanted to talk like as Nin or as Kyle, we would, it'd be head turned slightly to the side because they were always right here. Yes, and we knew it was inside our head. And no, it didn't sound like the sound was coming from outside our body or anything like that. We weren't seeing images displaced onto the external world. We knew this was all happening inside our head, but it felt very visceral in a way that it hadn't felt that visceral before, and didn't feel that visceral with other alters. And then it progressed even further than that. We never labeled anything. We never even really spoke about it. It was just something that was known, that we loved each other. And we never tried to put a box around it, because how do you put a box around someone who is a part of you, someone who was always meant to be part of you, somebody who has experienced horrific abuse to protect you inside your own body that you share, who hated you and then became an ally to you and has protected you for your whole life and sacrificed things for you, sacrificed a future that they want for you, and lives in your own head, feels your emotions all the time, can feel what happens to your body while you're in it, while you are there too. There is no way to label something like that. So we never tried to put a relationship title on it, but we were falling in love for sure, in whatever way you want to label that love as being. It was deeper than anything, any language that I can give you. It was deeper than that. It was a soul level connection. And I've had connections with people externally to us who I felt have been soulmates, whether romantically or platonically, and this was still on a completely separate level. There is no comparison to how it felt. It felt like being completed. It felt like healing for our soul. It felt like something that was never meant to not be part of me was becoming part of me. And like I said, we've had other fusions, and none of them have ever felt like that intense, that deep, that kind of love. And they just didn't want to be apart. Kyle couldn't stand not being around Nin, and Nin knew that she never needed to not be with Kyle. It progressed from being co-con all the time to being co-fronting all the time, which meant that they were both in control of the body at the same time. And it was almost like an overlap. I started noticing differences in how I was talking, acting, thinking, reacting. Maybe we just need more time to be just ourselves. Maybe that'll help, eh? That feels wrong. See, that felt wrong. I felt like having my heart pulled out of my chest. Just the suggestion of being ourselves individually. Spending time without each other. And that's when things started to be confusing, because we knew Kyle had a job to do. And Kyle has always been the kind of person who, like, my thoughts would always fucking run with me. Like, I was a fast thinker. I thought 24/7. I didn't get a break from jobs I needed to do, people I needed to help, communication that I needed to facilitate, safeguarding that needed to be done. It was constant, and I was always needed. And then I wasn't thinking about that stuff. I wasn't thinking much at all. I was just existing. And it was just before that where we started to realise sometimes we feel more like one person than two people. And it scared the life out of both of us. I haven't been able to bring myself to say it out loud or to anyone else except from in my own head, but there's been times where me and Kyle have felt so close that we were almost one person. I can't keep hoping that if I just push it away then it won't be real. I need him. I need him, and I don't want to be him. And I'm scared because I don't want to leave anyone on their own. This is the most me I've been in weeks. I couldn't think of anything more scary than not being with each other. And also, we're the host and the primary protector. As a system, we need a host and a primary protector. If we fuse, we won't have a host and a primary protector. That is not a job that you can do with one person. Those are both enormous roles for anyone within a system. Kyle was also worried about memory sharing.
I'm worried about memory sharing.
Because there was traumas that he did not want NIN to know about or have yet. Also information about the system that the host could not know about for our own safety. And I'm aware, vaguely, of what type of memories I had, but Jade did take them from me as we started fusing. Jade is our gatekeeper alter. She does have a Meet the Alters video if you'd like to watch that from many, many years ago. So that wasn't an issue. Kaya, don't have those memories, but I have an understanding of the vague kind of theme of what some of them may have been about. Nothing hugely specific. And I also do now have knowledge of some other alters in our system that I've never made contact with myself, and also the understanding that there is an additional subsystem that functions separately from our main system. It's not that another alter within our system has alters, it's nothing like that. It's just that there are two independently functioning systems. Based on what has been suggested to us by a therapist, their system deals with and reacts to and copes with a completely different theme of trauma and a different group of abusers than our main system knows about and deals with and processes. I don't have any communication with them except for occasionally I can speak to the host of their system and its primary protector, who may also potentially be a persecutor. It's a bit complicated, but I very rarely have any communication with them at all, and none of us knew about it except Kyle and Jade. And by fusing into Kaya, I'm now aware of that, but again, a lot of the information I had, I now don't have it anymore. But that was something that I was worried about as Kyle when I realised we might be fusing. As things continued, it almost felt like having a Venn diagram. Kaya started to exist before NIN and Kyle had completely stopped existing as their own independent people. There was a crossover where there was NIN, Kyle, and a crossover point where there was also Kaya. Because this was happening very, very, very slowly over almost a year period. It was like 8 months. There's a video that we filmed because sometimes when we just need to get things out or process trauma, we will make videos just for ourselves or to each other, just talking about how we feel, what's happening. They're not even really meant to be watched. Other system members will sometimes watch them, but it's really just for getting that information out and processing it. Kyle had kind of started to fuse more fully, and therefore he wasn't really around inside anymore, and that worried him because he couldn't remember where inside he'd been or what he'd been doing.
The fact that I don't know where I've been in a world there's just nothing.
It just felt like I was gone. I just wasn't really there, but I was there with NIN and as NIN while I was becoming Kaya. So I wasn't really disappearing, I was just becoming something else. Of course I wasn't inside doing other things. I was becoming Kaya, who was a host, who was in the body with NIN, as NIN, because I was also NIN. I'm aware that some of this might be confusing and not really make sense. It's also confusing to us. Every fusion is different, even within one system. Fusions between systems are going to be even more different and a unique experience for each alter and for each system. We just kind of have to puzzle out how it works and what's happening through how it feels and what we know ourselves. There's no guidebook where it's like, this will happen and then this will happen and this will happen and then yay, you're a new alter. It's complicated and difficult and extremely unique and individual, and it is something that you need to go through and puzzle through yourself. But other people do have similar experiences, and I'm really grateful for that because that helps a lot. And when we made this video, started with NIN because she was scared and worried and had just kind of come to the point where she couldn't deny anymore that they thought a fusion was happening. And Kyle, who had been very, very quiet up to that point, like around that period because he wasn't really existing as his own individual person anymore, was able to say goodbye essentially. And they still didn't know at this point whether this was what was actually happening. And they were both saying, like, I hope we're wrong. And Kyle did say, I remember saying, you know, maybe I'm just so affected because I'm so close to you all the time and I'm just getting affected by whatever's going on with you and maybe we're completely wrong.
I hope that it passes and that it's just a coincidence, and that whatever's going on with NIN actually has nothing to do with me. Maybe I'm just affected because I'm so close to her. Maybe you're just pulling in whoever's closest to you to integrate with.
But there was no sort of one moment that we identified where I wasn't Nin and Kyle anymore. But there was a period where I told someone, I said, we are fusing, and I don't feel me anymore. And I'm thinking differently, and I'm reacting to things differently, and my emotions are working differently. And I have completely different tastes and interests, and it's not like the me that I know, but it feels like me. And they said, what's your name? And I knew it immediately. My name was Kaya. The only confusion I had about my name was how I wanted to spell it. Yeah, then I was just me. Other people, both online and within our system, have compared us to being like Garnet from Steven Universe, a sort of made of love type deal, two people who loved each other so intensely that they ended up becoming one person, who fought through trauma so overwhelming and so intense at the same time, after also fighting through intense and overwhelming trauma through their life, worked through it enough with each other by relying on each other, by trusting each other, understanding each other, listening to each other, sharing those memories, completely letting down those walls, both a majority of amnesia walls, dissociative walls, and the walls around our hearts, that we were able to fuse. And I, Kaya, now am so much more resilient and strong. I also formed partially the way I did because of trauma, and the fusion was partially because of trauma, but it was also a massive sign of healing, how hard we were working, and that we were never going to let anything bad happen to each other again. We loved each other very deeply. And the hardest thing about fusing was not having that other person there anymore, even though I was and am both of those people. I am Kaya because I am Kyle and I am Nin. When people talk about Kyle and Nin, I still think of them as being me because I am them. I'm just different, evolved, or whatever. They didn't go anywhere. They are me. Just like your average neurotypical person would change through traumatic experience that they have, or learning new things, or going through heartbreaks, or whatever. People change throughout their life. They're still the same person. Ours is a lot more complicated, confusing, and, well, it's a disorder, but I'm still them.
Everyone changes. Everything is fluid. Our fluidity is just a little bit more dramatic.
And now with me being who I am, I was worried I would be losing them. But I'm not, because every second that I exist as myself, I am them loving each other. And I know how much they would believe in me, because I believe in me. And I know how proud of me they'd be, because they told me in that video, for whoever comes next. I said as Kyle, I said, we're going to be OP as shit, babe. I said,
if we do integrate, and you've got me as part of you and you as part of me, you're like, fucking what is going to stop us? Nothing. You're going to be OP as shit, babe.
I said, if you and me, Nin and me as Kyle, fused, whoever comes after is going to be OP as shit. Completely overpowered, so fucking strong. And he was right. Of course I was right. When was I ever fucking wrong? The system adjusted to having different roles, and other people had to step up, like Mike. Mike filled in decent amounts of the primary protector role. Not all of them. He's not a primary protector, and we were without a primary protector for a very long time. We still don't really have one, but other people, other system members have stepped up to take on bits of those responsibilities. We're finally starting to get to know each other again after our system was decimated by what happened. It's no longer as scary and unknown to have had that sort of restart, I suppose. It felt like going back a decade to when we knew nothing, knew no one, communication was a mess, never understood what was going on, everybody was scared and traumatized and frightened and angry and betrayed. All the work that we'd done, the communication, the understanding each other and who we were and how we worked together, felt like it had gone out the window, just buried under rubble. And we've had to rebuild, but we did. And I'm sure you'll see from our videos how much stronger we are for it. I'm not infallible. I'm not perfect. I'm very imperfect, but I'm a hell of a lot stronger, a hell of a lot more resilient, and I'm Kaya, and that's exactly who we were meant to be. If you want to know more about me, like a year or so ago, I did do a Meet the Alters Kaya video, which I don't think was that long after I'd fused. Again, things change, I change just through life and experiences and things like that, like any other person would. But if you want to know more about me, there'll be some in that video. I hope you enjoyed this and it was interesting. If you want to learn more about DID, please have a look at the videos on our channel. We have videos about PTSD, neurobiology. We've got lots of different Meet the Alters videos where you can get to know our system, information about how systems work. Our Debunking DID series is very scientific based. It has studies and research that you can look at yourself if you want to do your own research in the description boxes of those videos. So if you want to know more about how does this happen, why does this happen, what's going on, I recommend taking a look at those videos. Please subscribe and ring the bell, and don't forget to like the video as well. But ring the bell, that's the most important. If you go to our channel name, click on it, next to it on the homepage of our channel there will be a little bell icon. Click that so that you know when we're uploading and get to see all the stupid little community posts and things that we make. Alright everybody, lots of love. Bye.